Hello again, YouTube. Lovell Hawes speaking for another Lovell Hawes Ask video. Again, prior enlisted Marine, military history buff, and overall just does a lot of research. And I have questions that, well, for the people of this country, I just want them to ask themselves and to ask of their representatives. In this particular one, I actually am kind of wanting to know, why can't we take a page from the 80 Seconds book? A little bit of a history lesson, as sometimes happens with some of my videos. The 82nd, not currently an airborne division, was formed as an infantry division in World War One. When they were formed, they actually did a census of the division and found out there was only 48 states at the time, but there was troops from all 48 states forming the division. Well, as a result, they took the emblem, or they decided to take AA and formed their division patch, the familiar AA that's on their division patch now. So, they were all American. They took the strengths from all the states at the time and combined them to make an incredibly strong division. Then, on top of that, one of them, Alvin York from Tennessee, actually added to that very early on in the 82nd's history. When actions along Hill 223 in France, and it was his actions that actually captured more Germans than he killed, and he got a Medal of Honor for his actions on that particular day. After that, the 82nd added all the way. So my question is, why can't we be like the 82nd and be all American all the way? And what I mean by that is, actually, instead of tearing each other apart based on our disagreements, combine our strengths as we have in the past in order to become stronger as a whole. E pluribus unum, I believe it says on our currency. So, of many, one. And that is just as much of a warning as it is a question. Because not everybody on the left is a socialist, and not everybody on the right, in fact, from my experience, hardly anybody on the right is a racist. So, it goes back to the boy who cried wolf. If you're crying racist every time you have somebody who disagrees with you, then when a real racist comes up, nobody really believes you, because you've done it with everyone over everything. Don't agree with me on guns, you must be a racist. You don't agree with me on bail reform, you must be a racist. You can't agree with me on voting rights, must be a racist. And then on top of that, the people on the right, not everybody who's a leftist is a socialist. From what I've seen, there's a few of them, but not very many. There's quite a few of them that are just, most of us are just general of the road, middle of the road politics. Personally, I lean a little bit more to the right. It's like I've actually covered it in my previous video, where honestly I think that people should spend more time not worrying about whether or not to outlaw a gun, but more to worry about whether or not we respect one another. And towards that end, I think that is one of our more powerful things. We respect you, even though I don't agree with you. And towards that sense, when it comes to such things, is like, I'd actually agree with the libertarians quite a bit on that one. Except for, I personally don't like the isolationist stance, because we went isolationist before World War One, and then we got dragged into a world war. We went isolationist again before World War II. We got dragged into a world war again. I don't want to see it become a pattern, people. So, that being said, we do need to interact and engage on a global stage. And we need to learn that, hey, our strengths can combine to create a greater whole. And that being said, it's like I'm not going to agree with everything you're going to say. I'm not going to say disagree with everything you say. I might agree with it more than I disagree. I might disagree with it less than what you have to say. I personally think that whatever you have to say, whether it is currently considered offensive or not, should be said and stand on its own merits. So, if it has merit, let it stand strong. If it has no merit, then let it flounder. That being said, with that, I personally do not agree on any censorship at all, except for, of course, the proverbial fire in the crowded theater. But even if you are the proverbial extremes, say you are one of those racists or socialists, say your piece, be done with it, and if everybody else doesn't like it, then, well, guess what? You're not going to get any attention for it. And if they do like it, they're going to get somebody who actually goes, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe we should roll with it. So, a little bit of something that I honestly think could actually avoid what I fear is coming. I fear that the divisions amongst us as Americans could result in us shooting at each other, and I've worried about it for a better part of 10 years now. 10 years ago, I had people saying, nah, that can't happen. Now I'm hearing a lot of people more and more thinking that, hey, it can happen. And it worries me. It really does. And if we lose that unity, well, let us quote Abraham Lincoln: "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Let us find unity, not division. And there are going to be some things where I'm going to be adamantly say what I'm going to say, and you're not going to agree with me. And that's your right. I'm not going to call you any sort of name for disagreeing with me. If you own the name yourself, that's up to you. But personally, I think that all of the merits of our words should stand on their own, should be allowed on their own. So, that being said, it goes back to the 82nd, because they had men from all the states at the time. Instead of having the ideas of what would have been before that point. If you were from Virginia, you would serve in a Virginia brigade. If you were from Tennessee, you'd serve in a Tennessee brigade. And same with all the other states. So, as a result, you got the ideas of what was generally from the people from Tennessee. You would generally get the ideas of people from Virginia. You would get the ideas generally from Texas. When it came to the 82nd, the ideas were diverse, and they had people who were in charge who could actually listen to these ideas and pick the best of the lot. And it makes the 82nd stronger. It makes them incredibly strong. That's part of the reason why the Army is all American across the entire Army now. It's because they saw how effective it was with the 82nd. And they did it everywhere all at once. In fact, while I was in service, I actually had the courtesy and the honor of serving with Marines that were primarily from the likes of Wisconsin and Illinois. 224 was not anywhere close to where I was from. I'm from Virginia. And granted, 4th Combat Engineer Battalion is primarily made up of Virginians. Bravo, Charlie Company are in Roanoke and Lynchburg, respectively. And while, yes, we had a lot of Virginians, Alpha Company was from West Virginia, Delta Company from Tennessee. 224 had its headquarters in Chicago. And 224 Fox happens to be in Wisconsin. So, towards that end, we got a lot of information from those guys that was very different from what we were used to. And while we were actually when I went over to Australia to do some exercises over there, our engineering unit attached to a California National Guard unit. So we got perspective from Californians, and that was very different as well. And overall, most of the people that I saw in service were from all over the place. I went to boot camp with guys from New York, and I had no problem with any of them. My battle buddy was from a different state and had a very different perspective on life. So if we can combine these strengths to create a better nation, why can we not? Why can we not be like the 82nd All-American all the way? And I speak partially with a little bit of bias, so I'm going to acknowledge that right now. My father served in the 82nd up until 1983. He practiced doing jumps where he would actually have to, if the Cold War had turned hot, he would have had to jump into East Germany and try and take an airstrip. So that way we could continue taking the fight to Ivan and, if we had to, go all the way to Moscow. So, I personally would love to see that unity again. I don't want us to have to fight each other. It was our worst war. The war between the states, the War of Secession, depending on whether you were the North or the South, the U.S. Civil War, as it is now known, was our worst war. We lost the most people that we have, even over the world wars. So, this is an appeal to anybody who has heavy-handed political opinions. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. I'm going to be sharing this with everybody that I know. Please watch this. Please share this. Please, everybody, take the time to think, okay, what are my strengths and how can I contribute them to the greater whole? And when somebody else brings forward their greatest strengths and tries to contribute to the better whole, listen to them, don't dismiss them. And if you have to debate them, then debate them on the merits of what they just said. They are not a racist. They are not a phobic. They are not a socialist. They are not this. They are not that. Do not assume they are those things. Assume first they are American. And then listen to what they have to say. And if you disagree adamantly, that is on you. If they do not like what you have to say, that is on you. Grow a thick skin. I've come across more than one person who really doesn't like what I have to say. And guess what? If they stay on the topic, I'll happily debate them. If they do not stay on the topic and start calling me an istophobe, I start ignoring them. And I've been called istophobe so often, I use the term istophobe. Oh my goodness, I've been called an istophobe. Whatever shall I do? I don't care. It's become white noise to me now, as it has to probably many people I know. That is like, even if Donald Trump was as bad as the left said he was, how could we possibly know? Mitt Romney was called those things. W. Bush was called those things. Every Republican ever since has been called those things. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and every Republican has been called istophobe. And I've heard a lot of leftists being called socialists, and not all of them are. And yes, I personally believe if a vote for Bernie Sanders is a support where he has actually owned the moniker socialist. Okay, so a vote for him is a vote for socialists. Okay. But let the merits of what everybody has to say go out there and be what it is. It's like I personally love how the town of Floyd in Virginia handled it when the KKK did a rally. Nobody local showed up. They had to import a crowd from out of state because nobody in Floyd, Virginia was there. Nobody in the whole county of Floyd was there. No local person showed up and gave them the time of day. So, that's how you do it. And I personally love Floyd for it. I've actually called them world peace in a bottle, where a redneck, a hippie, and a witch can actually live in the same neighborhood and not only wave at each other, but do each other favors. It was nice. I've loved it there. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough jobs, so maybe one day they will have enough jobs and I can go back. But back to my original question. Why can't we be like the 82nd? All American, all the way. Put our strengths together and think about what your strengths are. And then throw them in the pot. And right now, I personally cannot contribute a lot of the muscle that I normally have in hand. Because of a run-in with COVID, I have a little bit of neuropathy going on. It makes it so that way I can't type. I can't stand as well as I normally can. I can't see as well as I normally can. And it makes it so that way my normal strengths of being able to put my muscle and my eyes on target and being able to affect a work environment is not nearly as good. So instead, I've had a lot of time to do a lot more research and a lot more ideas. Been able to sit back and listen to a few documentaries here and there. And it's given me a lot of ideas with the current events going on. I personally love listening to Tim Pool and Arthur Ray. And I love their content. And it's like Tim Pool, for example, he might not agree with anything I have to say, but he'll let me say my piece. And I like him for it. I love him for it. And there's some times where there's people that he has on that I don't agree with. And there's some that he has on that I agree with a lot. Personally, I'd love to see him interview General McMaster. Honestly, I think General McMaster has such a good insight onto current events going on in Ukraine right now that I think that his instinct is dead on. And his instinct has been dead on for over 31 years. It was dead on when he was a captain at the Battle of 73 Easting in Iraq. So, with that being said, please keep that in mind. 82nd, all-American, all the way, would be perfect for all of us. This has been Lovell Hawes, and another Lovell Hawes Asks video, and I want to thank you for your time yet again.